Good afternoon, Kalpana ma'am. Am I audible?
Good afternoon, Dipanshu. Yes,
Yes.
you're
You're
audible.
audible, Dipanshu, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. A very warm welcome to all of you to this highly anticipated series of webinars on SQAAF. I am Dipanshu, Assistant Secretary, CBSE, and I feel privileged to be your host for today's webinar. We are truly honored to have each and every one of you join us today from different corners of the world, coming together virtually to engage in a meaningful discussion on SQAAF and its domains. In the previous webinar on inclusive practices, which is very important domain under SQAAF, our resource persons and Deputy Secretary ma'am presented and explored it from various perspectives and examples.
Excuse me. Yeah,
Yes,
Dipanshu,
ma'am.
can we check if we are live?
Yes, ma'am, we are arrived.
Sure. Okay.
In the series of webinars on SQAAF, this is our ninth webinar, very important domain under SQAAF. And today we will talk about the next domain under SQAAF, that is management and governance. We encourage all participants to actively engage, ask questions, and share your perspectives through comment section of YouTube Live. This digital landscape has enabled us to connect, learn, and collaborate in ways that we once unimaginable. Today, we are honored to have with us Joint Secretary Academic CBSE, Mr. Al Hilal Ahmed. So, I would like to invite Hilal sir to address this webinar. Hilal sir.
Thanks, Dipanshu. Thanks for this wonderful opportunity. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you're audible.
Okay.
Sir.
Okay. Thanks again, Dipanshu, for this wonderful opportunity. And outright, I would welcome all of you, esteemed resource persons, for today's session. Madam Kalpana Kapoor, veteran, Manju ma'am, and Ms. Deepa Dogra, non-participating principals. Namaskar. So, as we all know, that the national education policy has mandated state and CBC, of course, to establish an independent and autonomous body known as State School Standard Authorities, people SAA, by 2023. So the primary responsibility of these SSAs is to regulate both private and public schools, ensuring that they adhere to the minimum common standards. CBSE has officially been assigned the role of standard setting authority for all the schools affiliated with it by the Government of India. Consequently, the board has prepared a very comprehensive framework called SQAAF, which you all know that it is school quality assessment and assurance framework. Now, framework has been added into it. Earlier, we used to call it SQAA. Now it's SQAAF. So it lays, explicit standards, and some of the domains you have already that already been discussed here. And now it's the entire focus of this SQAAF is to employ rigorous and objective assessment of the performances against the benchmarks and expectations which are mentioned in this paper. Assessment process is designed with a developmental approach, promoting accountability and incorporate multiple sources of feedback and assessments to offer a comprehensive view of school performance. It recognizes that the educational outcomes are influenced by various factors and acknowledges the importance of teamwork within school. So the purpose of self-assessment, as you all know, under the SQAAF is to enhance education standards, outcomes, and governance in schools. School self-evaluates various aspects such as teaching quality, outcomes, and governance in schools. Schools self-evaluates curriculum standards, sustainable infrastructure, available resources, community participation, governance processes, and accountability. So an honest and transparent and rigorous self-assessment is expected to catalyze positive changes in the academics, management, and leadership of educational institutions. So we are fortunate to have today's resource persons who have been instrumental in developing SQAAF framework also. So their expertise will undoubtedly help us understand the nuances of SQAAF in a lucid manner. So a self-assessment is now mandatory for all types of affiliation and extensions. I urge all participants to make the most of this program by actively engaging and seeking clarification whenever necessary. Once again, thank you, and I wish you all a happy and highly productive and enlightening session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for your valuable words. In addition to our esteemed guests, we are also honored to have a team of distinguished resource persons, Deepa ma'am, Manju ma'am, Rita ma'am, Kalpana ma'am with us today. Their wealth of knowledge has been invaluable in shaping the content of today's webinar. So now I would like to invite Mrs. Kalpana Kapoor, the key speaker for today's webinar. Kalpana ma'am, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dipanshu. And thank you, Hilal sir, for that lovely, short, and crisp introduction to the domain. So, Dipanshu, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Very well.
And I'm sharing my screen also. If you let me know if my screen is visible. Is it?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible now.
Okay. Thank you. So,
Welcome.
good evening and a very warm welcome to all our leaders once again to another session on SQAAF. And I'm so glad that in the last session we could take a little breather and also look at that all that we are doing is eventually because of the children and the learners that we are catering to. So, that inclusive education program was extremely sensitive, empathetic, compassionate, and I think made us all rethink that some practices may be less or more, but NCLB we cannot compromise with. So that was a wonderful session, and thank you to CBSE for once again organizing. This is the webinar series session 9, and thank you to Shanti ma'am, Deepa ma'am, Manju ma'am, Rita ma'am, who've always been there in all the sessions to help and support. So once again, a warm welcome to you. And we have finished this journey and we are almost way down to, after today, we'll have just another 4 sessions to go. Yes, and thank you for that marathon journey and bearing with us. I understand that it can be a little less interactive. I understand that it can be a little heavy at times. Since we are talking about standards for across the country, since we are talking about something that was not there earlier and is being developed, it's growing, evolving, and will keep on improving over a period of time. And we look forward to everybody's support in taking it forward. In today's session, we're going to do a quick recap once again of the few common features we've been talking about and coming back to management and governance, and also talking about management and governance from a stakeholder centric leadership. And as usual, our favorite, connecting the dots and looking at the standards in that context and ending up with any question and answers that you might have. Meanwhile, all my dear friends are keeping a record of all that you're writing in the chat box. If there are any queries, any suggestions, please feel free. We would love to hear from you. So today we would expect that we all learn to develop an understanding of domain 5 and why is it important in the smooth functioning of the school practices. And if we are able to understand the indicators and understand the concept behind it, develop sustainable practices. So which are long-term, scalable and sustainable. And we are also able to go back and self-assess ourselves and evaluate the impact of these standards or these practices in our own schools. And yes, please do feel free to provide feedback and feed forward. I look forward to Devanshu. I think last time there was a query that the feedback forms were not there. So if we can remember to put that at the end of the session. And also support CBSE if you're doing something really nice which resonates with you, please do share it with CBSE on the email provided at the end so that we can add it to our repository. As we keep saying, India being a diverse country, everybody is at different levels of their learning. So I'm sure the practices that you share with us will help some schools or the other. The anatomy, hopefully you remember this by now, the 7 domains. And hopefully you're also looking at the current framework, April 2023. Do remember the latest one, have a look at the latest one. April 2023 is the latest framework. And yes, the anatomy, which talks about the 7 domains, the subdomains. Each subdomain has certain standards. The standards have certain rubrics. Rubrics have some performance indicators and levels, and each one of them is supported by some document that you will have in your school. And these rubrics and performance indicators help you and direct you that, okay, what does it mean? And where do I need to move from where I am? So these performance indicators are observable actions or practices. So do read them thoroughly. So on a total of 48 to 84, your standards, and in management and governance, there are 10 subdomains and 10 standards. Weightage, although is 10% of the enablers, but the word enabler itself means supporting and guiding our practices. So one quick question to all of you before we initiate. Management and governance, what does it mean to you? So quickly, if you can put it in the chat box, what does management and governance mean to you?
The slides just come on here, ma'am. Responses are just coming in.
Right. So as I understand, there is about 20-25 seconds of lapse from what we are saying and when it comes on the YouTube. So let's give that little time frame. And the first few participants' responses, we can take that up.
Kalpana ma'am, could you read the question again for everyone?
What does management and governance mean to you?
Getting things done.
Okay. I
That's
can
one.
see one. Yeah, I can see one, administration, right?
Effective administration, making things available. A body who frames guidelines is management. Smooth running of a school.
And leading a team, I think one of them writes,
Yeah.
yes.
About running successfully by all means.
Okay.
Perfect execution and monitoring plan. Good administration, coordination and control.
Okay.
Everything to form an institution and to run it smoothly. Maximum utilization of resources. Work efficiently and effectively. Runs a team. Active administrations, policies, rules. Now it's jumping, ma'am. Direction,
Yeah,
management.
see that. Planning, organizing, leading, wonderful, optimum use. Yes. Thank you. Thank you, Manju ma'am, for that quick response. Yes. So I think our job is done. We can say bye-bye. Right, Manju ma'am?
Yes, I agree.
I think everybody is aware. I think you've got the keywords very correctly of what does management and governance mean to us. So, is it an art and science, as you've already mentioned in the chat box, of coordinating everything and putting it together? Somebody had written effective coordination, good administration, communicating with people, taking everybody together. So there's a lot of visionary leadership also, and there is a management angle to it also. So yes, it is an art and science in coordinating human and material resources so that we can achieve our educational outcomes. It also fosters skills, mindset, and attributes required for students to be effective learners. So, management is not just focusing only on administration in terms of transport and purchase and cleanliness and hygiene, etc., but also management and governance in the academic processes. or in terms of student enrichment processes. Since we are all talking about the VUCA world, I think all of you must have heard of that. A volatile, uncertain, complex, and an ambiguous world. The VUCA world. I'll repeat again. A volatile, uncertain, complex, and an unpredictable or an ambiguous world. That's the world that we are living in, and we have been living in, and every few years we get shaken up. Right? So, how do we prepare ourselves and our children to foster those skills and mindsets and attitudes that would be required? And in art and science, you have already mentioned all of this: efficient, effective, accountable, transparent. I do hope that after last time's session, somebody has mentioned equity, inclusion, and accessibility. That would be great. And community participation. So, my next question to you is that when we talk about a stakeholder centric leadership, where we imagine that a wide range of stakeholders, we keep throwing this word stakeholders very openly, and we say that if we take our stakeholders together with us, it strengthens the possible outcomes of the organization. So, a quick question: who are our stakeholders? For a school, who are the stakeholders? If you can quickly put it in the chat box. Who are our stakeholders?
There's still an answer coming on governance, Kalpana ma'am. It says
See
governance is strategic task of setting schools goals.
right.
And parents are stakeholders, teachers and parents, parents, management, students, parents, teachers, community.
Yeah.
So lots, you got your answers rolling by.
Now don't
Management and
write the
parents.
ones- yeah. Now don't write the ones that are already there.
No, there's someone said management.
Okay, great.
So yeah.
We
We
one
had
of the- Yes, Manju ma'am.
management, we have civil society, NGOs.
Yeah. And somebody writes everyone who's associated with us.
Yes.
That's interesting. That's interesting. Because there would be some who are directly involved. So there are some who are called as internal stakeholders, and there are some who are called external stakeholders. And I think we all of
So
us
you're
agree.
using words like community and society.
Yeah, absolutely. And who would be our primary stakeholder then? Obviously, the children. Right? The children would be our primary stakeholders. And since we are taking care of the children on behalf of the parents are also an important integral part of our stakeholders. Your teachers, your management, the organization within, all the people within the organization. There are
We
some
also
who
have
are
support staff.
yeah, support staff. They're also our internal stakeholders. And there are some stakeholders who are indirectly involved with us, like some of you have written NGOs or a community, community collaboration that you've done with an NGO outside, or with an old age home, or with an underprivileged section, or where you are going and contributing as an internship, as an entrepreneurial project. So there are a lot of people, even our supplier of books, our vendors of transport, they are also indirect stakeholders, but they have a business proposition, all right. But yes, they are also external stakeholders. So I remember one school when it started making its own books. The publishers felt that it was hitting on their business because schools have started making their own books. So we've got internal stakeholders, we've got external stakeholders, and how do we create a leadership that is caters to all? So even people like, let's say the publishers or the printers or the electricity department or the DOs who are directly involved also, like how do we cater that they also feel a part of our school? Because they are also the ones who are our brand ambassadors. So how do we make sure that whether they are internal or external, how do they form a part of our school community? And that is why the stress on stakeholder centric relationship. So, and the conflict that happens is between the head and the heart. So once you are into management and governance, you're on both the sides. You're speaking and working on behalf of the management, and you're speaking and working on behalf of the children and the parents and the teachers and so forth. Right? So there's always a conflict between the head and the heart. The heart says, I want to give everything, right? But the head says, okay, do I have the funds for it? And that's why it's important to have the management as another collaborator, as another stakeholder who's equally involved, because they are the ones who are actually envisioning the whole school. So, how are we aligned to that vision and mission? And the budget forms a huge important part, because we all know that income versus expenditure, right? So unless we are looking at schools, alternative schools, unless we are looking at schools running for charity or for not profit, schools are, yes, whether we like it or not, it is a business. But how much from that business can we give to our children, can we give to our teachers, can we give to our parents, is something that will have to be worked out in collaboration with the management. So let's quickly look at, are we a stakeholder? Are we following, or do we believe in a stakeholder centric leadership, which is called as 5-point SEL? Okay, 5-point SEL is what? Full form? Stakeholder centric leadership. So the 5 points, the first one of them is, so it's a reflection time for you. I'll just ask you a few questions with examples, and I want you to reflect on how it works in your school, because each one of you would be looking at your region, your school, your parents, your management, your children, your teachers, your community, and so forth. So, question number one, you don't have to respond, it's just for you to think. Do my stakeholders have a voice? And by stakeholders, maybe some may have more, some may have less, that's okay. But do I allow my stakeholders to express their viewpoint, and am I able to build that trust amongst my stakeholders? And this came across very beautifully, especially in COVID times, when a lot of stakeholders had got together and helped the school in taking things forward and helping them out. And also in terms of, when there is a fee regulation that happens. So if there is a trust, if there is an equation, if there is a rapport, if there is a bonding, it really helps. Teachers bonding and stakeholder inclusion, it stops a lot of attrition. It prevents a lot of attrition when you're including them into the day-to-day decision making and building up a trust within the school. So do reflect, do my stakeholders have a voice, and am I able to build up a trust? Emotion and intuition. Do I unlock commitment? Am I so humble, compassionate, open? Do I allow for people to try out new experiments without, of course, harming the routine? Yes. So am I able to build up that commitment and cultivate that human potential so that I get the best out of the resources that I have? The mission and the purpose, whatever vision and mission that we have, is it has it happened collaboratively? We would be doing that in the leadership section next session also. Are my systems transparent? Does everybody know why I'm doing this? Does everybody know why I'm suddenly wanting to change my diary? Does everyone know why suddenly I want to integrate a bagless day? Does everybody know why I wish to include a life skills period into my timetable? Right? And why do I wish to do it? And do I engage in collaborations to translate this vision into a mission? And how do I leverage technology and innovation to create a new organizational structure and societal value? So initially, we used to do a lot of work on hard copies and registers, and instead of your usual ERP and your digital report cards, we would have that big, huge, we would call it the blue sheet. the blue paper, so where we had to actually handwrite all the marks and everything. And even if one mistake, it would be torn off and we would have to redo it. So I'm speaking of from my experiences as a teacher, right? So things have become so much easier. Things have become so much faster, so much more efficient. So if the basic work is being done by technology, I can focus a lot more on creativity. I can focus a lot more on my pedagogical strategies in the classroom. I can work on a lot more on streamlining my transport system or my hygienic, giving the school a clean and hygienic environment. So technology, yes, and innovation plays a huge role, and intellect and insight. So with my intelligence, with my insights, what's working, what's not working, my 4 hours, remember? Reflecting, reviewing, responding. Am I able to use that data to make informed decision? डेटा तो मेरे पास बहुत है, ERP है, डेटा जनरेट हो रहा है, बहुत कुछ है मेरे पास. But what do I do with that data? Am I able to make some use of that data to make some informed decision? If my one particular bus keeps breaking down after every little while, and the data says that in 1 month it breaks down 4 times, it gives me red signals, it gives me a red alert that I need to do something about it. So how are we using that data? How much of diesel petrol is being used by each bus? The logbook tells you that. How much of diesel is being used by the generator? How is it that when the day it was a holiday, the generator was still running? So the data gives you ideas onto what can be done in further improving our systems. And feed forward is one of the ways that helps us to improve and better our systems. But make use of the data. Just collection of data has no use. So quickly a summary of what we did: stakeholder centric leadership, 5 pointer, stakeholder inclusion, working with humility, openness, compassion, understanding the people, mission and purpose and how is it shared, using technology and innovation to make our things efficient and faster and improve them, and using our intelligence, insight, feedbacks, data collection to make informed choices. So my next question to you would be, any thoughts on this 5 SCL? I would want you to put it in the chat box. S for strength, I for area of improvement. You can write the short form. What is your strength in all of these 1 to 5? So you can put S for strength and I for improvement area. What do you think is your strength? And what do you think is your area of improvement? Are you able to include the stakeholders? Are you able to deal with people with compassion? And you may have rules and regulations, but yes, do you deal with those rules and regulations with empathy and compassion and humane perspective? So quickly in the chat box, your strength, put an S. For improvement, you can put an I. Out of 1 to 5, what do you think is your strength? And what do you think is your area of improvement?
Dinesh Nanda says 4 is his strength.
Okay, that's technology. Wonderful.
Pramod Jadhav says strength is teamwork.
Okay.
And Binapani Dash says strength, mission, and purpose.
All right, wonderful.
Gunjan Rathi says confidence and passion.
That would be 2 also, yes, okay.
And then Anirudh Garg says, I don't know, Dinesh Nanda says S is 4.
That is energy, yeah.
Yes. Renu Sharma also says strength is technology.
Okay.
I am not getting any responses as yet. It says I, but nothing is mentioned. S. Karpagam says common topics to bring up to a child, proper communication with parents and awareness. Lots of 2, 5s coming in as strengths, 4s. Chitra Krishna Kumar says 1, 2, and 5 is a strength.
Okay.
I'm not getting technology needs 1 and all. I think technology is 1 for someone.
I think I is also number 3, somebody said. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
And yeah, Virti says I is number 3. And
Okay.
235, again, someone says uh, Y is 2.
Okay.
And strength is 1 to 5.
And interestingly, there are a few responses that are
Answers
saying,
4 and 5 are I is Meena Singh.
yeah,
Yeah, lots of responses similarly. Shiv Shakti School International.
yeah.
Strength
Thank
is
you.
strategy to attain goals.
Yeah. So thank you, Manju ma'am, and thank you to all the respondents. Uh, what's coming across strongly is the mission, the intellect and the insight, and the emotions and the intuition. And wherever you feeling that somewhere emotion, intuition is also missing, but thank you for your honesty. I think that's beautiful because unless we are ourselves, if we are self aware, we'll be able to work on our areas of improvement and celebrate our strengths. Technology seems to be a good strength for a lot of people. And to few responses that are saying that all are interrelated. Absolutely. The way that you deal with emotion, intuition, engagement with your stakeholders, the way you translate your vision and mission, the way you handle technology issues with insight and data and feedback, yes, the all 1 to 5 could be interrelated too. Yeah, but sometimes we are good at something, like for example, somebody said technology, and somebody said that's an area of improvement that's required. So what somebody was sharing the other day is that it's very expensive to getting into ERPs and management information systems and all. And another principal said we are not using any of it. We are using Google Docs, which are free. So they have all their data actually on Google Docs. So that was interesting to hear from some of the school leaders. Thank you so much for your responses. So this is what your school quality assessment and assurance framework. I repeat, it is assessment and assurance. It is not yet accreditation. So don't worry about that accreditation part. Right now, we are focusing on assurance. So if you connect these words, I hope you'll be able to connect them with the 5-point SCL, stakeholder centric leadership. There is a vision made in collaboration. Practices are aligned with the vision. The core values and beliefs form a culture, and everybody in the system breathes the same value and belief. And the policies for planning, use of resources, financial management ensure efficiency. There are rules, regulations, and policies, but they are tempered with emotion, intuition, and engagement, human values of care and compassion. So, unless we reflect that into our policies and into our governance, we can't expect our children to become lifelong learners. So, in an almanac, go back and review it. So, in your school almanacs, children should do this, children should do this, children should do this. If they don't do this, they will pay so much of fine. If they still end up doing this, they will be suspended. So, are these practices and policies made in collaboration with children? Can we temper them with care and compassion? Do we know the age group of the children and that there are certain things that at that age group it will happen? And so, how do we convert it into a positive reinforcement? So, management and governance is not just going out and wielding the danda, but it's also wielding it with a firm hand, yet with care and compassion. And management is not just administration only, it is also a visionary leader who's translating that vision into action. And these are the quick subdomains: the vision and mission, the institutional planning, which happens because of this vision and mission. So these two form a very important subdomain. How optimally do you use your resources? How effectively are the activities conducted? The admission process, the communication with each other, teacher to teacher, teacher to parent, teacher to student, student to teacher, to the principal, principal versus management, management versus the school leader versus the teachers and the community. So there's a whole big network of communication. Half the problems happen when the communication is not there or when the coordination is missing and people don't know what is to be done. And half the problem also happens because we don't have a data. So, a quick check would be go back to your schools and ask for a data, and you should get it within the next, let's say, 5 minutes. If it is available to you within the next 5 minutes, it means you have the data at your fingertips. Ask for a teacher workload, ask for the number of leaves in the last 1 month, ask for the number of the diesel that has been used by one particular bus, ask for a data of one particular bus register, and if that data tallies with the attendance register, which is current, do check whether your documents are updated, relevant, and easily accessible. That's like 50% of the job done. So once again, these are the standards. The vision and mission made in alignment. All the SOPs are in alignment. The institutional planning works on the needs of the students. Effective coordination within the school and with outside community. Optimal use of resources. Nurtures and sustains meaningful relationship with all stakeholders. Accelerates and manages the workflow of all activities. The data and record maintenance is used to make informed decisions. And there is a communication channel which is open and clear and transparent. And there is a financial and fee administration which is based on your income versus expenditure. So we can't ask for, let's say, the moon without looking at how much income are we able to generate. And the admission process, and as per the RT, as per the inclusivity norms, as per the RPWD Act, and also making sure that in some of the interiors, there are children who drop out of schools for certain reasons. So making sure that in certain schools, the children don't drop out for reasons which could be in our control. So these are the 10 subdomains. Coming to the vision of the school. So I'm sure all of you have your visions of the school. And if you look into your Google Baba, you'll be able to see what are the key words. What are the key words? My next question to you. What are the key words? This is an impromptu question I'm asking Manju ma'am. Key words in your vision statements. एंड वो भी तब आने लगी विजन स्टेटमेंट्स जब सीबीएसई ने मांगा था। कईयों की तो विजन स्टेटमेंट्स बनी भी नहीं थी, कईयों की 20 साल पहले बनी थी। दे नीड टू बी रिव्यूड। एक मैंने देखी विजन स्टेटमेंट 15 साल पुरानी, वो आज भी रेलेवेंट है। इट वॉज सो फ्यूचरिस्टिक। सो कैन यू क्विकली पुट इन द चैट बॉक्स some of the key words in your vision statements?
Ma'am, responses are started.
Sorry.
The responses are here: determination, dedication, and regular attention.
Okay.
Determination is from another school.
Right.
Shared vision says another school.
Some keywords from your own school's vision statement.
That is what they're typing in.
Yeah.
Shared vision is another one. And discipline, sanskar and education.
Yes.
Education for girls, eco-friendly school, shared vision, holistic growth of students, creating a healthy society.
Nice.
Bringing forth hidden potential.
Okay.
Helpful, holistic development, education for all, inculcate values. values and compassion, inclusive education, inquiry, innovation, creation, enrich, empower, enlighten,
Wow.
reverence for learning, accountability, creating a better human being, peaceful society, to make India the future of technology,
Wow.
integrated education, future that is safe and with Indian ethos, experiential learning, being a good human being, center of excellence, all-round development, moral values.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Manju ma'am. I think beautiful visions, the words that we can see, right?
Yes,
Lovely,
yes.
igniting young minds, peaceful
Conducive,
society.
yeah, peaceful society, conducive learning environment.
Nobody is writing with good board exam results. Thank you. Service to humanity. Wonderful. So, each one of us in our own region, we are doing our best. So, kudos to all of you that given the challenges, given the situations that we might have, given the resources that we might have, we are all trying to do our best, right? But is the best good enough is something that we will have to go back and review. So, some of the key buzzwords, I think we're still getting a lot of responses, but thank you so much.
Yes.
Amazing responses coming up. So, your work increases, Deepa ma'am and Manju ma'am, to, to copy it all down and have the peer learning and peer sharing at the end. Yeah. So I did not take any one school vision statement because there are so many beautiful phrases and words that are used in many vision statements. So I looked at one which could be probably the buzzwords. So when we talk about lifelong learning, we talk about holistic values, integrated approach, girl child, a peaceful society, etc. So I'm assuming that will come under your holistic education. So the buzzwords, tentatively, not the most perfect here. I'm just using the buzzwords that the school aims to provide holistic education to all students. So a vision statement has three aspects. It is for children. What are we providing? Holistic education, that is your 21st century or whatever, to enable them to be lifelong learners. What is the outcome we expect? Lifelong learners. How do we achieve it? With parents as partners and through an empowered faculty. So there are three components to a vision statement. Who is it this for? किसके लिए हम ये स्कूल है? What is the outcome expected? Lifelong learners. And how are we going to achieve it? Through parents and empowered faculty. So, three important impacts that you need to look at in your vision statement. So when we say we are a happy school, or when we say from here to tomorrow, from here to the world, these are taglines. So a vision statement would be a complete statement that has these three components. Now, when we look at an old picture from systems thinking session, how do I connect the dots? I have all these operations in the school, little functions in the school, little processes happening in the school. How do I make it into a lovely school that encompasses my vision and my policies? How do I translate it into action? Because as somebody said, vision without an action is a nightmare. So I might have a beautiful vision, but if it doesn't have a plan, if it doesn't have a mission, then it's definitely a nightmare, only on paper, right? So we had already discussed this slide that when we are doing an institutional planning or when we are preparing our policies, one, we should know our stakeholders. So all of us know in our banks it's called as KYC, know your customers. So as school leaders, do we know each and every one of our stakeholders, their needs? I'm not saying know each one and every one of them, what they like, what they don't like, what they eat and what they don't eat. Not that way. But if a school is in an area where there's a lot of let's say service class people, what are the kind of strategies I have in the school where I ask very little from the parent? Right. So schools where the business class community could be a little more, you are a little more free in asking for material. So depending upon how well do we know our stakeholders, which background are they from, which services are they from, which region are they from, so that I can send my buses to that region, which is the nearest 5 kilometer range, 10 kilometer range where I need to pick up my kids from, or when I'm doing my admissions, where is my target audience and all of that. So it's important to know our stakeholders and where they come from. Teachers, we want good teachers, but maybe your buses are not going there. So how do I make sure that I'm sending the buses to those areas also where I'm getting, let's say, 5, 6, 7, 10 good teachers? So maybe I can start a route there. So you're looking at the larger picture when we are talking about our stakeholders. And if it is if you are an inclusive school, you are also looking at buying transport that would be accessible to the children. A universal design of purchase, I can think of a universal design of an operation that or a practices that we have in our schools. So do we include them in our institute? We are not saying that you have to include, if you have 2,000 children and you have to include 4,000 parents, right? But over a period of time, 2 years, 3 years, what is the maximum number of stakeholders that you have, kind of reached out to or built up a connect with, or you know their names, or you know them by face, or you know them because of their children, whatever ways, right? So, do we include them? So, one is that stakeholders, your internal and external. The others are primary stakeholder, know your child. How well do we know our children? So, I want you to quickly write your thoughts in the chat box. What are the traits of our children? Anything that you've observed. If you can quickly write your thoughts in the chat box, the traits of your children. So Renu Sharma ma'am says KYC, we also call it know your class. That's interesting. Manju ma'am, that's
Yeah,
interesting.
noted,
Yeah.
noted, ma'am.
So quickly in the chat box, what are the traits, as you notice as on today, the traits of your children? Innocent?
Innocence,
Yeah. Go ahead, Manju ma'am.
inquisitive,
Okay.
uh, ambitious, determined achievers,
Okay. Quickly, some more coming up.
yes,
Next.
intelligent, independent.
Okay.
Some answers are also for the previous question.
Right.
Sweet, kind, naughty, talkative sometimes, innovative, creative. Honesty is coming up with everything.
Okay.
Again, active, ambitious, curious, civilized, diligent,
They're all
holder.
being, Manju ma'am, they're all being very diplomatic.
Yeah, someone has written aggressive and passionate, techno kid, creative, explorer,
Yeah.
impatient, energetic, full of life and talent, artists,
Anxious.
creative learners, notorious,
Okay.
independent, loving.
Oh my God, you're getting flooded now.
Then I'm getting focused, ambitious, first generation learners, skillful, disciplined, socially competent, smart, talking toms,
Talking tops. Okay.
socially oriented, reluctant, agile, playful,
Right.
loving.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Manju ma'am. I think you'll get a lot more to add to your list. And thank you for the respondents too. Uh, and interestingly, when you must have heard Manju ma'am, so there were different traits coming out depending on the on your areas of interest. So because we didn't say whether we are talking about pre-primary or preparatory or middle or secondary school. So there were some traits that you were talking about, which were probably of middle and secondary school, and some that you were talking about the primary school, and some could be a blend of both, right? So as a school leader, am I aware of the needs of my child? Am I aware of the developmental milestones of my children? That at age 2 plus, what do they need? At 3 plus, 5 plus, 8 plus, what do they need? So, one suggestion to all of you would be to go through, although we must have done it in our B.Eds, but we've also forgotten the developmental milestones. The developmental milestones of children. If you read the NCF for foundational years, you will find a lot of it in the document. That at that particular age group, how do the children behave, their attitude, their approach, and all your psychology theories of Dostoevsky or Piaget theories and so forth, if you recollect, they would tell you that at which age children do what. So my suggestion would be that if you're aspiring to be a leader, or if you're already a leader, and if you're not sure of the theories, do go back and read developmental milestones of children. So we all know that there's an aims of education, there are curricular goals, and we need to build up skills and competencies, and there will be learning outcomes. So when we look at the little ones, right? NCF tells us, interestingly, if you look at what NCF tells us, play based education, which builds up curiosity, creativity, critical thinking, cooperation, teamwork, social interaction, empathy, compassion, inclusiveness, communication, cultural appreciation, playfulness, awareness of the environment, ability to successfully and respectfully interact with teachers. So, if you read this extract, and map it to the activities in your classrooms. Try and see how much of it maps to that. If we look at the NCF foundational years curriculum, so it's not English, Hindi, maths. It's socio-emotional and ethical development, physical development, cognitive development, language and literacy, aesthetic and cultural development. So I think and most of your report cards must be reflecting this. I'm quite sure. If not, we will need to review that. And eventually, who knows, in times to come, even in the middle school, etc., I'm sure a time will come when we will stop talking about only subjects. Subjects would be looked at as one component, the other components would become equally important. So, as a somebody who's planning the institutional planning, what is the kind of environment I'm going to give my little ones? What are the kind of resources I'm going to give them? What should I purchase? What should I look forward to? This little wall here, a sound wall, may not be relevant to a senior school, but it may be relevant to a senior school if the senior school children have made this sound wall as a project. If I've kept a lot of activities here in the first picture, and the children are exploring and discovering, could be numbers, it could be colors, it could be anything. If there is a garden that the children have created, every day there is a 10-15 minutes period where they have to water the plants and know the names of the plants and make sure and find out how much are they growing, etc. So the teachers will need a space where they can have that garden. They'll need to collaborate with the gardener for that garden. And as a leader, I have to give those supporting resources. I have to make sure the gardener is available at that time. I have to make sure that safe and secure tools and equipments are there for the little ones. I have to create those spaces for them. If senior children have to make this sound wall, I have to make sure that can I use my old resources and give them this background. I'll need a carpenter for this. How do I get this material? Can I collaborate with the children and ask them to get all their Purana Bartans and do it? So, as a leader, again, you are thinking about that if I was to plan my environment, how would I do it? If I'm lucky enough to have a beautiful area with lots of garden and trees, etc., great. If I'm not lucky enough to have so much, what is the greenery that I can create in my own school? to bring that sensitivity towards the nature, right? And create that as an environment. So, with the primary school, my safety security needs would be planned differently. My infrastructure would be planned differently. The environment, the human resources I would need would be different. Their qualifications would be different. Counselors, special educators would be more focused in the primary to identify issues. My timings would be different. It could be 3.5 to 4 hours. My timetable would be different because children's concentration span is less. So I might have my timetable which focuses only on 15 to 20 minutes with a lot of activities. In senior school, we are giving them block timetables also. My fee structure could be different. My procurement of material would be different. Sorry, safety and security is repeated twice. And my pedagogical and assessment practices would be different. So if I see a report card which says PT1, PT2 in nursery KG 1, 2, 3, and 4, what does that make me think? Is my pedagogical and assessment practice different in the primary and different in the middle or the senior school, and why? Why is it different? KYC. Why are these practices? Why don't I have a 3 hours question paper, 3 hours test for the little ones? Why don't I have a 20 minutes paper for the senior school half yearly and annual of it, maybe half an hour? Right? So, all these are food for thought when we are designing our the institutional planning and the policies that come with it. Because I'll have to look at the budget, I'll have to look at the human resources, infrastructure, etc., etc. When we look at the middle and secondary school, again, aims and goals and skills and learning outcomes. But again, their developmental milestones would be different, right? So, their developmental milestones, I'm sure all of you again would know if you've done or worked with counselors and looked into their physical growth, where it's a rapid growth period, secondary sexual characteristics begin, their intellectual and cognitive self cause and effect relationships are a little underdeveloped. They don't understand why this happens and that could be the effect of it. So they are open to taking risks and challenges. They challenge the authority of the family structure. They could feel lonely. They could say, my parents don't understand. Wide mood swings, my teacher doesn't understand. They would be occupied with their body imaging, critical of their own appearance. मेरे बाल अच्छे नहीं हैं, मेरे दांत अच्छे नहीं हैं, मेरा नाक बड़ा है, etc. Anxiety about their secondary sexual characteristics, conscious about their body growth, and the peer group, in 11 to 13 years, they have intense friendship with the same sex, but with the opposite sex, they would rather work in groups or they would rather meet them in groups, right? And of course, identity development, desire for privacy. No one understands. And their vocational goals keep changing. Someday I want to become an engineer. Someday I want to become a musician. Someday I want to become a carpenter. Someday I want to become an interior designer. So my goals will keep changing. And that's why the role of the school is to give them as much exposure to different vocations as we can in grades 6 to 8. And that's why our timetable, our curriculum, our pedagogical strategies cater to those needs. And in 14 to 15 years, height is almost achieved. Intellectual growth, I can start thinking abstract, an abstract thought process. Cause and effect, I'm able to understand better. Conflict with family will still predominate, but I'm able to understand body imaging, peer group pressures, adolescent issues, high risk behavior, trying to experiment with drugs and friends and smoking and alcohol, etc. So, as a school, in my institutional planning, in my timetable, I need to have life skills classes, vocational classes, value classes, high risk behavior projects for them to understand why, make them experience in terms of doing statistical research on why I should or should not get into high risk behavior is an informed decision that the child will have to make. So, understanding children, knowing your children, and developing your pedagogical strategies around it. So children of grade 11 and 12 may not enjoy your dance and drama and music that we do for, let's say, primary school. But if they have to do their scripting, they have to do their choreographing, if they have to do their stage development, etc., as an entrepreneur, they would definitely enjoy it much better. 16 to 18 is leveling off, abstract thought is established. Now they are ready for an adult kind of a lifestyle. They're becoming more comfortable with their body imaging and they're able to relate to family as an adult. And they're able to establish their sexual identity and distinguish their imagination from real. So, unless we know about it, we will not be able to integrate components into our curriculum which talk about it. It's such a taboo to talk about certain topics in our classrooms, right? But then where will the children get to know from? They may not get the correct information if they have to look at 101 other sources which may not be accurate, authentic, reliable, or valid. That's a scary part. That the data that is available, on the net is huge, and we are not able to cope up with it. And that's something that we will need to integrate into our curriculum. So, with middle school, what is the kind of learning spaces we can give them? With middle school, their timetables change, fee structures change, safety, security processes become a little different. Their transport, sometimes where the senior children go a little later or go a little earlier, depending on their classes and extra classes or extra sports periods that they might have, and so forth. So, yes, sorry, spoken a lot. Let's connect the dots now into your framework. That how, when we were talking about management and governance, it was all linked, it's nothing separate. So, when you read the domains, also, you'll find a little overlapping. Little what? You'll find a lot of overlapping because each one is related to the next domain. There is an interconnectedness. So, to quickly take you through that interconnectedness, in domain one, we had done curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment, where we spoke about inclusive policies, well defined outcomes, learning spaces, student friendly, teachers' updation, positive classroom, building skills and competencies. So, when I plan my institutional plan, my 5.2.1 standard says it's based on the needs of the children, KYC and KYS, and principle of optimum utilization of resources available. I can't ask for the moon. Let me first use the resources that I have in my school. And these SOPs that I'm making are in alignment with my policies, vision, and mission. SOP is nothing but how will I do this? If I have to take, when I first became a teacher, I didn't know how to take an attendance. So I might not know how to take an attendance. So can we give it in the induction program for teachers on how to take an attendance? Right? So small little SOPs, half a page, 1 page SOPs. Forget it about making big, huge policies right now if you don't have. Last session, Manju ma'am told you that the books that you have, the handbooks that you have, the frameworks that you have in the introduction manual, it gives you the why for every practice in your school. It's beautifully given. You have to work out the when, where, who, how. That will come in annexures. So all your little SOPs become small annexures. Clarity on what we do. So let's look at one example in the curriculum process. So have a look at it for 10 seconds. We plan the ACPP. We have a teacher's diary. We go and deliver in the classroom. We take periodic assessments. We take half-yearly and year-end assessment and give report to the parents either twice in a year, 3 times in a year, whatever your SOP is. This is a typical teaching learning cycle. I want you to look at it for 10 seconds. If you want, you can take a screenshot because I'll be asking you to compare this with another slide coming up. If I was to think of stakeholder centric leadership, that in this cycle, what is the inclusion of my stakeholders? Have I understood what my teachers want? How much are they capable of doing? How much capacity building have I done with them? Have I shared what we want to do, or what have we shared together? This is where we want to go. Have we all spoken about how technology is going to help us? Have we some data on which we can base our teaching cycle and say, this is where we are. Are we okay with it? Are we happy with it? Or do we want to move further? Can we include, at times, wherever required, our parents into it, community into it, children into it? Not every day, but yes, spread over a period of 1 year. So, if a school looks into this and creates a second teaching learning cycle, which is this, you can take a quick snapshot or look at it for the next 10-15 seconds. So I want you to look at this slide, and if I have kept that stakeholder centric leadership in mind, and if as a school leader I've made changes to my teaching cycle, and hopefully you took a screenshot of the previous one, what is the improvement that you would notice? I'm sure this can improve further and further. But what's the next level of improvement that you notice? What has the school added? So, quickly, if you can share in the chat box, what do you think are the improvements in this teaching learning cycle where the school has got together with the teachers, thought of a plan, thought of a way of
One of the
improvement?
first responses coming in is open communication with parents,
Okay,
greater clarity.
okay,
Uh, it, it brings clarity. Another says feedback, parent involvement, micro thinking.
okay. Thank you, Anjali, for that. Yeah.
Integration of assessment for learning,
Okay, okay,
a collaborative approach, review and response,
right.
feedback and reflection,
Review of
personality,
stages. That's interesting.
yeah, review. Yeah, personality enhancements, learning outcomes, assessment for learning, school pitching in for extra coaching.
Nice.
And again, Anjali Kadlaskar says more comprehensive parental cooperation, bringing vision into action. Inclusive,
I like this one, diagnosis for gaps.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
one about that participation of stakeholders in school, emotional and more comprehensive.
Yeah.
Dynamic teaching learning process.
Right. Right. So thank you. Thank you, Manju ma'am. I think the keywords are coming out.
Yes. Child centric, deep learning.
Although involvement of parents may not be visible here, next time we can add it in the slide somewhere where there is a
Yes.
collaboration with parents. But yes, sharing of feedback and feed forward would definitely involve parents. Yes. Error analysis is another one. Yeah. So I think one of the responses was also on micromanagement. So
Yeah.
micromanagement would be where you're actually sitting in the class and telling the teacher, do this, do this, do this. So I would probably look at micromanagement like that. But yes,
Ma'am, they said micro learning.
probably I think the person meant micro detailing, maybe,
Yeah.
or
Yes.
understanding deeper, diving deeper, and improving our practices and processes. Wonderful. So I think that's lovely. So, how far and how deep do you go into is going to be the challenge that you're going to have. How much do you want to get into improving processes? And there's never an end. Let me warn you. There's
True.
never a point of time when we can say, okay, we are done. Yeah. So even today, there's something new that we can look at and try and do something that is different. So growth is a continual process, my friends. Your vision and institutional planning, I'm sure you all are making short term, long term, smart goals. You're executing it with a lot of role clarity and clarity to the person who has that role. You're taking feedback and feed forward. You're making an action plan depending on that feedback and feed forward. You're doing something from the data that you're collecting, right? And you're distributing responsibilities and mentoring. And again, reflecting and reviewing what worked, what didn't work, and the cycle continues. So it's an ongoing process. So most of the my experiences with some of the schools is that somewhere that bigger planning, that larger planning, and the monitoring of practices, there is little gap. Execution, we're doing all great work. But in terms of that bigger picture of why are we doing it, and then monitoring of those practices to make it better is somewhere we might like to think about. The plan and the check. So connecting it with your domain too, when where we said that it is safe, secure, clean environment, happy environment, and buildings to be friendly. So how does management and governance look at it when you plan your institutional plan? Your vision says holistic and values and lifelong learners and compassion, etc. And the best learning that can happen is through and with nature. And this is a picture from Nipun Bharat, understanding it through an open environment. And if you remember Ek Chidiya, Anek Chidiya, our favorite across so many years and years and years, and it's relevant even today. And it's an open environment. The thought was that classrooms, you don't need to limit your classes, your transaction within the four walls. Your classroom can be anywhere. So, what's your plan to give ideas to your teachers, suggestions to them, suggestions to the admin department, suggestion to the gardener in your school, suggestions to the carpenter in your school, suggestions to the music, art, dance teachers in your school of how do we use these resources? How do we utilize the learning spaces that we have? We might have the most beautiful infrastructure, or we may not have the most beautiful infrastructure, but it is used very effectively. And I would like you, this is one picture that I saw. One is using the floor, the central picture here. The other is making a kind of a U shape seating arrangement. This one, a circular arrangement where the teacher is in the center. So what are the different kind of seating arrangements that we try out? And if a teacher wants to try it out, how do we support that teacher? By giving them that kind of facilities that she or he can change the seating arrangements as and when required. So if a principal goes on a round and say, why are you sitting on the stairs? So is that culture open? Is that given to the teachers? Yeah, you can take the class anywhere, but make sure the stairs are clean and hygienic. So extra attention being paid to the cleanliness and hygiene when children are sitting on the floor. This is a very cute one. Many classes have this free hand drawing, freedom of expression. So we've got to give them that whiteboard throughout, or a blackboard or a green board throughout the primary school classrooms where the children can just scribble around. So again, management and governance. If you think it's important for your little ones, you'll definitely find out ways and means to do it. If you think that the school can act as a learning aid, Bala. If you think that these tires can act as learning aids, why not? It's worth spending that little time over or a little paint over it, right? If we, as a management and governance, we have promised to give our children clean, safe, potable water. Who's reviewing, checking, and inspecting the water tank up there? How many times is it getting cleaned? Who goes up to see कि जो बंदा और जो पर्सन टैंक के अंदर गया है उसके पैर हाथ पैर अच्छे साफ थे कि नहीं थे, जिस मटेरियल से वो साफ कर रहा है वो साफ है कि नहीं है, कितनी बार टैंक क्लीन हुआ है, व्हाट आर द प्रिवेंटिव एंड करेक्टिव एक्शंस, कितनी बार हमने अपना वो चेक कराया है पानी का प्रेसिपिटेट लेवल. So who's doing it? I should have those practices in place to monitor my clean drinking water. जहाँ बच्चे पानी पीते हैं वहाँ पे फंगस तो नहीं लगी हुई, जहाँ बच्चे पानी पीते हैं वहाँ पे पानी इकट्ठा तो नहीं हो रहा, जहाँ बच्चे पानी पीते हैं वहाँ पे ग्रीन मोल्ड तो नहीं है, जहाँ बच्चे पानी पीते हैं नीचे की जो पाइप जा रही है उसमें सारा वो मख तो नहीं है, गंदगी तो नहीं है, स्लिपरी तो नहीं है वहाँ पे. क्या वो हाइट के बराबर है मेरे बच्चों के लिए ड्रिंकिंग पॉइंट? Who will look at it? Somebody who has a clarity, right? So similarly for your driving questions, for your waste management, कौन इकट्ठा करेगा, कैसे करेगा, किसकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी है, कौन मॉनिटर करेगा, बच्चों के साथ कैसे कम्युनिकेट किया है, टीचर्स के साथ कैसे, हमने ये सारे ब्लू येलो रेड ग्रीन लगा तो दिए बट नोबडी नोज इसके अंदर क्या क्या डलेगा, राइट? तो ये जो गैप्स आ रहे हैं उसको कौन ब्रिज कर रहा है? क्या बच्चे घर जाके भी वही प्रैक्टिस कर पा रहे हैं कि नहीं कर पा रहे? नहीं कर पा रहे हैं तो क्यों? So just asking yourselves questions. So once more, one sample of a transport in infrastructure of management and governance. हम अगर buses, अगर आपके स्कूल में buses चलती हैं, the many schools where children come on their own. तो अगर बच्चे खुद आते हैं, even then schools take the responsibility कि वो रिक्शे में आ रहे हैं, पेरेंट ड्रॉप कर रहा है, रिकॉर्ड्स हमारे पास हैं, राइट? एंड द एंट्री द गेट इज देयर. सो अगर हम बसेस ले रहे हैं तो वेंडर्स अपनी बसेस लेंगे या वेंडर से लेंगे, अगर वर्क ऑर्डर देंगे या हम खरीदेंगे, व्हाट इज द प्रोसेस ऑफ प्रोक्योरमेंट. रूट्स डिफाइन हो गए, बसेस चलने लग गई, हम सेफ्टी सिक्योरिटी चेक्स करने लग गए और अगर कोई प्रॉब्लम आई हम उसको हैंडल कर रहे हैं. ये एक सिंपल प्रोसेस है, बसेस सेशन के शुरू में लगी और चलने लग गई. So take a quick look at this with a snapshot, because I'll be showing you another process now where the school has worked on the 5 stakeholder centric leadership and tried to make changes in their process. So do have a quick look at this and then we look at this. So क्या इम्प्रूवमेंट दिख रहा है आपको इसमें? Time lapse of 10-15 seconds will happen. From the previous slide to this slide, what are the changes that we notice? So can you put it in the chat box? What is the improvement that you notice?
Police verification.
Okay.
Every time selecting different students for various programs so that maximum number get exposure. Orientation of drivers, budget plan and proper guidelines. Teachers and parents are equal stakeholders. Orientation for teachers.
Yes. In some schools, even the parents take on the duty of the buses because of that stakeholder inclusion. They also feel equally responsible. So you can keep
Proper,
improving it.
yeah, proper guidelines to the drivers. Updation of document reviews by students and staff. CCTV. Training on safety rules. Regularity in reviewing along with technical integration. Complete transport system. Parents also involved.
So I think,
Teachers give
yeah,
responsibility.
thank you.
Better
Thanks.
governance module.
Good to end with Amber Trivedi ji's mention there. Better governance model. You could keep improving it. This is level 2. You could improve it still further. Thank you, Manju ma'am, for all the responses, and thank you to the participants too for being very interactive in the chat box. So, yes, friends, again, it depends on you as a manager, as a visionary. So, we are not just looking at school principals as managers, they have a vision. How do we translate that vision? So, if you're not able to do it, you will have somebody allocated to take that up. So some of us are good, we execute it well, but we may not have a vision. Or we have a vision and we are not able to execute. So we hire the right people at the right place. That's another attribute of a leader, of being self aware that I'm good at this, I may not be good at this, and I need help. Similarly, for your standard 2.8.1, which can never be diluted, your school safety and security program, as mentioned in the Ministry of Education guidelines. School transportation is also one of them. So, what am I doing to ensure the safety and security, the implementation and monitoring of my say? I have my processes in place that buses will be inspected, but how often do I inspect them? And how often do I make to bridge the gaps? How often do I do that? What are my preventive and corrective actions? I go into a bus and I see that the register is outdated. Children who are there in the bus are no longer there in the school. Am I able to map it to my current attendance register? Who's in charge of that register? That person has already left and gone. A child came in the morning, but in the evening the child was not there, but the child has been marked present for both morning and evening. The exit slip, there is no exit slip. So what next? So all issues will happen. We are all a part of, a running school. So a few little things will happen, but how quickly we are able to navigate that incident, how quickly we are able to identify the gap and immediately take action is something what smart governance will all be about. And safety and security non-negotiable. So, friends, do take care of yourself as well as of your stakeholders in your school. So, coming to quickly domain 3, I'll quickly show you the linkages now that you've understood the stakeholder centric leadership and how are we connecting it to every domain that you've already done. In human resources, we were talking about ensuring student learning connect policies and practices that are conducive to working environment. and involvement of all stakeholders, whether it's children, parents, community, alumni, even the children acting as resources. So once again, if I have to do my institutional planning and my SOPs, let's say somewhere in October, November for the new session, it's time now to do your institutional planning based on your vision and mission. And I look at my 5 components of stakeholder inclusion, SEMTI, short form. Stakeholder inclusion, emotion, mission, technology, and intellect. So typically everybody has an organogram. That means that this is clear to you who reports to whom. And do we have an admin person? Do we have an academic person? There is a coordinator of the primary, middle school, secondary school, and it would vary from the type of school that you are in. In some places, there's a corporate office if there is a chain of schools. Somewhere it is a single owner school. Somewhere the principal herself or himself is the owner come principal come director. So the organogram could change depending on the way that the school is run. So that clarity should be there for whatever kind of school that you're in. What is the reporting mechanism? Or what is the communication channel? Or what is the coordination channel through the organogram? So we are talking about human resources right now, and specifically right now for teachers, because they are the the ones who are actually going to be implementing a lot of stuff. So do I have clearly defined roles and the right people for what I want? For example, all of us have a duty list circular that teachers have signed. Can I start writing it as process owner? So if I am the assembly in charge, I will write my SOP that as an assembly in charge मुझे क्या करना है? पहले पूरे साल का देखना है कि कौन सी क्लासेस हैं, कौन से मंथ में आ रहा है, वहाँ पे कोई नेशनल इवेंट डे तो नहीं आ रहा, कोई पर्टिकुलर स्पेसिफिक कोई ऐसा डे तो नहीं है जो हमें सेलिब्रेट करना है. क्लास वाइज असेंबली होगी, हाउस वाइज असेंबली होगी, कैसी असेंबली होगी, असेंबली की गाइडलाइंस क्या होंगी, उसका आउटकम क्या निकलेगा और क्या दिखेगा, उसकी रिपोर्ट कैसे बनेगी. सो एज अ प्रोसेस ओनर मुझे एक फ्लो चार्ट 1 पेज का बनाना है कि मेरा एक फ्लो कैसा होगा और मुझे कब कब देखना है इसको, कब प्लानिंग करनी है, कब एग्जीक्यूशन होगा उसका. सो इट्स नॉट जस्ट ड्यूटी लिस्ट. और अगर मैं आपकी ड्यूटी लिस्ट देखती हूँ या आप किसी स्कूल की ड्यूटी लिस्ट देखोगे तो व्हेन यू लुक एट दिस आपको क्या लगेगा कि ये स्कूल के प्रिंसिपल को बहुत कुछ पता है. स्कूल के प्रिंसिपल ने सिक्योरिटी गार्ड की भी ड्यूटी लिस्ट बनाई है, प्रोसेस ओनर लिस्ट है, स्टोर वाले इंचार्ज की भी प्रोसेस लिस्ट है, हाउसकीपिंग की भी है, डिजिटल न्यूज़लेटर हार्ड कॉपी से अब वो डिजिटल में आने लग गए हैं. सो टेक्नोलॉजी इंटरवेंशन. स्कूल में अपने इंटरनल ऑडिट्स भी होते हैं, एकेडमिक के भी और एडमिन के भी. सब्जेक्ट इनोवेटर. सो सब्जेक्ट इंचार्ज नहीं बोल रहे हैं वो स्कूल, कैपेसिटी कॉम्पिटेंसी बेस्ड एजुकेशन जो सब्जेक्ट इनोवेटर देख रहा है. और सिर्फ एग्जाम इंचार्ज नहीं है, असेसमेंट एंड एग्जामिनेशन इंचार्ज है. इसका मतलब स्कूल को पता है डिफरेंस बिटवीन असेसमेंट एंड एग्जामिनेशन. बैगलेस डेज का क्या मतलब है, एंटरप्रेन्योरल एंड सेवा प्रोजेक्ट्स में क्या होगा. तो जब हम पेपर पे लिखना शुरू हो जाते हैं, so I think we all know that we do it. So it's important that when you look at a document, you are also able to see कि that school believes in this. और अगर ड्यूटी लिस्ट बनी है तो उनकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी क्या होगी. सेम प्रोसेस ओनर लिस्ट की हर रोल की क्या होगी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. क्या हमने हर एक को बोला है अपनी ये जो जो आप करते हो एक पेज पे लिख दो. आपको लगता है कि उसमें कुछ नहीं ऐड हुआ, कोलैबोरेशन के साथ, ग्रुप के साथ, कोऑर्डिनेटर के साथ मिलके यू कैन ऐड मोर टू दैट लिस्ट. दिस इज एन एग्जांपल ऑफ अ KRA की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी एरिया. KRA का मतलब है की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी एरिया. सो एक टीचर का है ग्रेड 6 का. सो वो टीचर को क्या करना चाहिए. शी शुड लुक एट द लेटेस्ट चेंजेस, शी और ही रीड द लेटेस्ट NCF, कोई चेंजेस तो नहीं आए. शी और ही प्रिपेयर्स द ACPP, एक गाइडलाइन का एनेक्चर ऑलरेडी फॉर्मेट आपके पास है. लेसन प्लान बनाएगा टीचर, एज पर लेसन प्लान डिज़ाइन, कि आपको उस लेसन प्लान के टेम्पलेट कैसी होगी, तो वो भी एनेक्चर आपके पास है। मुझे असेसमेंट इन और एज, रिमेंबर वो टीचिंग साइकिल जो हमने देखी थी, उसका भी एनेक्चर है। इंक्लूसिविटी, हाउ डू आई डायग्नोज, अंडरस्टैंड, कोलैबोरेट, बच्चों को जो हेल्प चाहिए उसके लिए भी एक गाइडलाइंस बनी हुई है, टू आइडेंटिफाई चिल्ड्रन विद स्पेशल नीड्स, टू आइडेंटिफाई चिल्ड्रन विद स्पेशल एबिलिटीज़, टू आइडेंटिफाई चिल्ड्रन in particular language or mathematics or in reading skills etc. आईईपी का भी एक फॉर्मेट आपके पास रेडी है। एक एनेक्चर ऑन ब्लूप्रिंट ऑन नॉलेज स्किल्स एटीट्यूड्स, कितना परसेंटेज होना चाहिए, कैसे देखना चाहिए, वर्कशीट में कैसे इनबिल्ट होगा, प्रोजेक्ट्स में कैसे इनबिल्ट होगा, वो भी आपने एक गाइडलाइन दी है टीचर को, राइट। पीयर रिव्यू योर लेसन प्लान विद योर को टीचर्स, अगर मेरी को टीचर भी मेरे साथ 6th 7th 8th पढ़ा रही है तो मुझे दोबारा बनाने की क्या ज़रूरत है लेसन प्लान। आई कैन वर्क टुगेदर विद माई टीचर, शी कैन प्रिपेयर फॉर 6th, आई कैन प्रिपेयर फॉर 7th after brainstorming together. So emotion, understanding, compassion, फिर वो एग्जीक्यूट करेगी या करेगा और अपने आप को देखेगा कि वो क्या वेंट वेल एंड व्हाट कुड हैव गॉन बेटर, और फॉर एनी असिस्टेंस आस्क फॉर हेल्प। तो एक छोटा सा KRA बना हुआ है, इसको आप मॉडिफाई कर सकते हैं, सिंप्लीफाई कर सकते हैं, लेकिन मैं आपको क्या दिखाना चाह रही हूँ स्लाइड में इस कि आपके ऑलरेडी एनेक्चर्स साथ साथ बन रहे हैं। एक छोटे से KRA क्लास टीचर में 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 सपोर्टिंग डॉक्यूमेंट्स तो मुझे दिख ही रहे हैं। सो यू कैन सी अ लॉट ऑफ कि टीचर्स के लिए अंडरस्टैंडिंग भी है, कंपैशन भी है, हेल्पिंग हैंड भी है, सपोर्ट भी है, मेंटोरिंग भी है, राइट। सो डू वी हैव दैट क्लैरिटी फॉर एवरीवन। और फिर अगर मुझे उनको मॉनिटर करना है और मेंटोर करना है तो टिपिकल क्या होगा, मैंने ऑब्जर्व किया, बोल दिया कल्पना कपूर यू आर नॉट योर क्लासरूम इज़ नॉट वेरी गुड, आपने मेरे से बात करी, मुझे समझाया, और अगर मैं फिर भी नहीं समझी तो मुझे आपने 1-2 मेमोज भी दे दिए, मुझे टाइम फ्रेम दिया इम्प्रूव करने के लिए, और फिर जो भी एक्शन आपकी पॉलिसीज़ में लिखा हुआ है, मैनेजमेंट की गाइडलाइन में है, वो आपने मेरे ऊपर कोई एक्शन लिया। हाउ डू आई इंक्लूड एन SCL इनटू इट, stakeholder centric leadership and improve on this mentoring process। ये रीटा मैम ने आपके साथ किया था when we were doing human resources। आप इंडक्शन करते हो, मेंटोर देते हो, एक एनालिसिस करते हो कि मैं किस में अच्छी हूँ नहीं हूँ, मुझे आप कंटिन्यूसली फीडबैक देते हो, मेरी ट्रेनिंग करते हो, आइडेंटिफाई करते हो कि मुझे ये पूरे साल का एक प्लान है मेरे लिए। और अगर ये SCL है तो ये क्या दिखेगा, you see that there is a change in the model। ये मॉडल दिखेगा आपको मेंटोरिंग का। So I hope you're trying to get the meaning of what I'm trying to convey, that management and governance is not just running a school, it's not just managing a school, but you're actually believing in it। जो practices हैं, you are convinced and you're taking it forward। So let's stop just managing our schools and let's start doing it with that SCL, right? And ask yourself questions कि हम जो कह रहे हैं ऑप्टिमली यूटिलाइज ह्यूमन रिसोर्सेज, तो क्या मेरे पास एक पेरेंट एंगेजमेंट कैलेंडर है, अलुमनाई एंगेजमेंट कैलेंडर है पूरे साल का, कम्युनिटी एंगेजमेंट कैलेंडर है, बच्चों को मैं एज रिसोर्सेज कैसे यूज़ करूँगी, प्राइमरी के, मिडिल के, सेकेंडरी के, हाउ विल आई यूज़ देम एज रिसोर्सेज, क्या कैलेंडर बना हुआ है? क्या मैं सोच समझ के प्रॉब्लम्स को अंडरस्टैंड करते हुए क्या मैं एंगेज करूँगी, या मुझे बोला है कि पेरेंट को इन्वॉल्व करो तो मैंने सारे 30 पेरेंट्स को बस ड्यूटी दे दी। मैंने ये नहीं देखा कि वो पेरेंट बाहर रहता है, मैंने ये नहीं देखा कि वो पेरेंट पूरे दिन में फ्री नहीं है, मैंने फीडबैक और नहीं लिया कि कौन कब ड्यूटी कर सकता है। मैंने एक मीटिंग नहीं बुलाई, डिस्कस नहीं करा, राइट, शेयर नहीं करा कि हम करना क्या चाहते हैं और क्यों करना चाहते हैं. पेरेंट्स गिव अस लॉट ऑफ आइडियाज. कैन वी यूज टेक्नोलॉजी टू इम्प्रूव आवर प्रोसेसेस इफेक्टिवनेस? और जो डेटा हम इकट्ठा कर रहे हैं, कैन वी यूज इट टू इम्प्रूव आवर प्रोसेसेस? बार बार वही पीडीसीए दिख रहा होगा आपको, राइट. एंड इफ यू लुक एट डोमेन 4, जो मंजू मैम ने लिया था, सो ब्यूटिफुली एट ब्रॉट आउट इंक्लूसिविटी एंड यूनिवर्सल डिज़ाइन फॉर लर्निंग. तो क्या वो हम इफेक्टिव मॉडल यूनिवर्सल डिज़ाइन, जहाँ पे हमारा इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, ह्यूमन रिसोर्सेज, एक्टिविटीज़, कम्युनिकेशन, एंगेजमेंट, वेयर ऑल चिल्ड्रन आर वैल्यूड, तो क्या हम इसको अपने इंस्टीट्यूशनल प्लान में एज अ पॉलिसी इन आर एसओपीज, हमारा जो विजन क्या कहता है, कैन वी पुट इट इन दैट? कैन इट रिफ्लेक्ट इन ऑल आर प्रैक्टिसेस? कैन इट रिफ्लेक्ट इन ऑल आर एसओपीज? तो अगर एक बास्केटबॉल टीचर अपना बना रहा है एसओपी, तो वो अज्यूमिंग कि अगर आपके पास अलग अलग बच्चे हैं, उनको आप कैसे इन्वॉल्व करोगे उसी बास्केटबॉल ग्राउंड में? मैम ने एक बड़ा अच्छा एग्जाम्पल दिया था. वे सारे बच्चे व्हील चेयर में, नो, शी गेव द एग्जाम्पल ऑफ सब बच्चों ने नील डाउन करके वो ओथ ली थी स्टूडेंट काउंसिल की. एक बहुत क्यूट वीडियो था वेयर जहाँ पे वो बच्चा खेल नहीं पा रहा था बास्केटबॉल, तो दो चार बच्चों ने व्हील चेयर्स में बैठ के उसके साथ बास्केटबॉल खेला, राइट. सो हाउ डू वी मॉडिफाई, अकोमोडेट और प्रैक्टिसेस, चाहे वो करिकुलम में है, चाहे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर में है, चाहे यूज़ ऑफ वॉशरूम्स में है, चाहे एक्टिविटीज़ में है, चाहे बसेस में उतरना चढ़ना है. वी आर नॉट येट वेरी इंक्लूसिव फ्रेंडली, टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट. नॉट जस्ट स्कूल्स बट लॉट ऑफ ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस. तो जब हम लेवल 4 पे, ये अगेन मंजू मैम वाली स्लाइड है ये, जब हम लेवल 4 पे, जब हम सिस्टम को चेंज कर रहे हैं, यहाँ पे तो इनइक्वालिटी थी नंबर 1 पे, फिर हमने थोड़ी सी इक्वालिटी कर दी कि दोनों को स्टेयर दे दिया, लैडर दे दिया. इक्विटी में थोड़ा सा उसकी लैडर को लंबा कर दिया. लेकिन जस्टिस तभी होगा जब हमने सिस्टम ठीक किया, दैट इक्वल अपॉर्चुनिटीज एंड इक्वल टूल्स टू आवर चिल्ड्रन. सो क्या वो हमारे विजन में, क्या वो हमारे इंस्टीट्यूशनल प्लानिंग में, क्या वो हमारे एसओपीज में दिखता है हर जगह? How will I use this 4 hours model to create an effective model of inclusivity? Let's review my practices. Let me reflect on them together with my team. See हमारा क्या अच्छा कर रहे हैं, let's celebrate. जो नहीं कर रहे हैं उसके लिए एक्शन प्लान बनाएं, टाइमलाइन बनाएं, थोड़ा करें, let's try, pilot it out, और फिर देखें whether it worked or didn't work, and then plan again. The worst part is if we don't try. कहते हैं ना, the sin of omission is greater than sin of commitment. बिल्कुल नहीं करना से अच्छा हम कोशिश तो करें, that we are trying something. The next domain which is on leadership, ये आपका नेक्स्ट सेशन में, वेबिनार की सीरीज में 3 components लिए जाएंगे: your pedagogical, collaboration and change management. And again, if you look at it, all domains are all linked to your leadership. हम जो अभी पूरी जो बात कर रहे हैं, in all the last 8 webinars, today is the 9th one, it's igniting the leadership thought process. And as we keep saying कि हमारा डेटा पूल बहुत है, हमारे एजुकेशनिस्ट हमारे पास बहुत हैं, sensitive, compassionate, empathetic educationists. Let's try and collaborate with them in our hubs of learning, in our Sahodyas, and synergize that energy together with them and look for continual improvement. So let's take help where we don't get. If we feel we need help, let's ask CBSE, let's ask our Sahodya people, let's ask our hubs of learning, let's ask our friends who may be running schools together. That person may be good at one particular practice, you may be good at another practice. So while planning our institutional planning, our vision, mission statements, let's share the best practices that we have. And this will all come from you. आपका पर्सनल वैल्यू सिस्टम क्या है, आपका विजन क्या है, आपका परसेप्शन क्या है, आपका अलाइनमेंट क्या है, आपका पर्सनल अवेयरनेस क्या, आर यू अलाइंड विद द नेशनल गोल्स, आर यू अलाइंड विद द सेशन टुडे? इफ यू आर नॉट अलाइंड, आपका एक अटेंडेंस हो गई एंड दैट्स द एंड ऑफ द स्टोरी। इफ यू आर नॉट अलाइंड, हो सकता है कि कोई यूट्यूब बहुत लोग देख भी नहीं रहे हो, राइट? सो अगर वो सब नहीं है, देन इट बिकम्स मीनिंगलेस, बिकॉज फिर आगे कुछ नहीं बढ़ेगा। It will all have to start from us, the leaders. What are my values and beliefs? My self awareness of where am I? My alignment, purpose, vision, alignment with national goals. अगर मैं ही ओपन नहीं हूँ पेरेंट्स को इन्वॉल्व करने के लिए, मुझे लगता है कि नहीं, टू मच ऑफ पेरेंटल इन्वॉल्वमेंट माइट हैम्पर माई स्कूल। थोड़े से करके शुरू देखो, ट्राई विद द प्राइमरी स्कूल, ट्राई वे यू आर कंफर्टेबल। सो अगेन, ये जो 5 पॉइंटर्स हम कह रहे हैं विल डिपेंड ऑन आपका पर्सनल वैल्यू सिस्टम क्या है। अगर आप अथॉरिटेरियन लीडरशिप से चलाना चाह रहे हो, फाइन, दैट्स ओके, दैट्स योर कॉल। यू डोंट वांट टू इन्वॉल्व पीपल, दैट्स योर कॉल। But researchers and studies say that the more we collaborate, the more we interact, the more we learn from each other, the better it is. We get better results. And domain 7 का beneficiary satisfaction also you will be doing it later. So जहाँ पे अगर हम ये सब कुछ कर रहे हैं तो कोई चांस ही नहीं है कि लोग खुश नहीं होंगे। बच्चे इन्वॉल्व हैं, एंगेज्ड हैं, एक्सपीरियंशियल लर्निंग कर रहे हैं, ब्यूटीफुल एनवायरनमेंट है, हैप्पी एनवायरनमेंट है, टीचर्स एंगेज्ड हैं, इन्वॉल्व हैं, रोज़ कुछ नया सीख रहे हैं, खुद आगे जाके रिसोर्स पर्सन्स बन रहे हैं, पेरेंट्स इन्वॉल्व हैं इन डिसीजन मेकिंग, चॉइसेस, आपका मैनेजमेंट एंड गवर्नेंस एंड ईआरपी बहुत स्मूथली चल रहा है। जो प्रॉब्लम्स अगर छोटी मोटी आती भी हैं तो आप फटाफट उनको एड्रेस करके आप ख़त्म कर देते हो इन अ विन विन सिनारियो, राइट? अगर वो सब हो रहा है, सो आई डोंट थिंक देर इज़ एनी वे दैट योर पीपल आर नॉट हैप्पी। एंड ऑल्सो वी कांट प्लीज ऑल द पीपल ऑल द टाइम। कोई ना कोई रहेगा, कोशिश रहेगी कि हम 100% करें, बट वो रहेगा एक ना एक जो किसी ना किसी वजह से, बट लेट्स विन देम ओवर, लेट्स ट्राई। नो पेरेंट लेफ्ट बिहाइंड, नो टीचर लेफ्ट बिहाइंड, नो चाइल्ड लेफ्ट बिहाइंड, नो मैनेजमेंट लेफ्ट बिहाइंड। या सो इवेंचुअली आई थिंक अगर ये सब हो रहा है तो आपकी एडमिशन्स होंगी, और नो मैनेजमेंट लेफ्ट बिहाइंड तभी होगा व्हेन यू शो दैट इंक्रीज इन द admissions and in your financial incomes, and you can ask for more for your children and for your teachers, right? लेकिन पहले करके तो दिखाएं कि it is possible. So friends, coming back to your institutional planning and vision and mission, जब हम बेनिफिशियरी सेटिस्फैक्शन की बात करते हैं और हम कहते हैं बहुत मुश्किल है सबको खुश रखना, तो प्रॉबेबली आस्किंग द वाई क्वेश्चन, एड्रेसिंग की टिप ऑफ द आइसबर्ग तक मत छोड़ दीजिए। सोचिए कि उसके नीचे क्या चल रहा था, पैटर्न्स क्या थे, लोग ऐसा क्यों सोच रहे हैं कि ऐसा बिहेवियर आया, ऐसे दुखी क्यों हैं। That will help you in your standard on relationship management, communication, effective coordination. सो अगर कम्युनिकेशन का एक आपका डॉक्यूमेंट नीचे लिखा हुआ है सर्कुलर, तो सर्कुलर इज ओनली अ वन वे कम्युनिकेशन। सो यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड एंड इंटरप्रेट द परफॉर्मेंस इंडिकेटर्स वेरी थरली टू अंडरस्टैंड ईच परफॉर्मेंस इंडिकेटर। तो अगर हम ये ड्राइविंग क्वेश्चन पूछते हैं वाई 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 वाई, आपको समझ में आ जाएगा कोई क्यों दुखी था। सो पेरेंट इज वेरी दुखी, बस जो है मेरे घर पे नहीं आ रही है, नहीं जाएगी, मेरा रूल कहता है घर घर नहीं जाएगी, आपने साइन किया हुआ है कि बस घर घर नहीं जाएगी, फिर भी आप रोज आ जाते हो हमें बोलने के लिए। अब क्यों नहीं जाएगी? नोबडी हैज ट्राइड टू अंडरस्टैंड, नाइदर द पेरेंट नॉर द स्कूल। सो वंस अगेन इफ वी लुक एट दैट वाई एंड ट्राई टू एड्रेस दैट इश्यू कि बस क्यों नहीं जाएगी, वहाँ पे कोई नाला है क्या, वहाँ पे रोड नैरो है क्या, क्या वो बस वापस यू टर्न नहीं ले सकती, क्या वो उस गली में जाने के लिए उसको आधा घंटा लगेगा और आधा घंटा बाहर निकलने के लिए, इज इट वर्थ इट? Have we gone in that bus ourselves, gone with a parent to understand the why? Most of our problems are sorted out कि अगर हम ये 80% problems get sorted out अगर हमने why समझ लिया तो, और हमारा coordination and effective communication is better. And you need to do a self check. Am I a stakeholder centric school? And am I a happy school? How will you know? How will you know? Because at every practice, there'll be some preventive corrective actions that you're taking, some feedback that you're taking, some action plans that you're communicating to the parent, changes that you have made with the parent, feedbacks that you've taken, feed forwards that you've taken. हमें पता है क्यों ज़रूरी है, लेकिन वंस इन अ ईयर फीडबैक चलेगा? एक हमने एनुअल फंक्शन का फीडबैक तो 1 साल में 1 बार ले लिया। लेकिन आपने स्कूल में एक नई एक्साइटिंग एक्सपीरियंशियल लर्निंग एक्टिविटीज़ शुरू करी हैं। आपने एक नया असेसमेंट पैटर्न शुरू करा है। कैन यू डू अ क्विक फीडबैक चेक, फीड फॉरवर्ड चेक? छोटा-सा टेक्नोलॉजी तो आजकल एवरीवेयर देयर। पल्स सर्वे है, फीडबैक फॉर्म, सजेशन बॉक्सेस, गूगल डॉक्स, पैडलेट्स, मेंटीमीटर्स। और एक अच्छा बहुत अच्छा एक अभी एक फीडबैक आ रहा था कि जब कम्युनिकेशन नहीं होगा तो र्यूमर्स भी ज़्यादा फैलते हैं। सो इट्स बेटर टू बी ट्रांसपेरेंट, जहाँ तक पॉसिबल है विच इज़ रेलेवेंट, दैट शुड डेफिनेटली बी शेयर्ड विद द स्टेक होल्डर्स। अगर मैं ट्रांसपोर्ट चेंज कर रही हूँ, अगर मैं रूट चेंज कर रही हूँ, डेफिनेटली द स्टेक होल्डर हैज़ टू नो, ऑल द स्टेक होल्डर्स हैव टू नो, right from the parent to the child to the driver to the bus in charge to the conductor to the didi who goes in that bus to the records and documentation transport in charge to the class teacher, सबको पता होना चाहिए. So that communication and coordination helps in running a smooth school. Why can't we have this kind of a channel first, try it out within the school? I'm sure you're doing many more, much more than this, to help you improve your systems and to gauge beneficiary satisfaction. एक पेरेंट ने बोला फोन कॉल करके मेरे बच्चे की कॉपी चेक नहीं है, दैट शुड बी अ रेड अलर्ट. हो सकता है 10 अदर पेरेंट्स हो जो नहीं कह पा रहे हैं. So it's a red alert for me to go back and check in that class whether all notebooks have been checked or not. Right? So treat every feedback and feed forward as a red alert. Be happy with the positive feedbacks. Yes. One important standard, which is the last standard I wanted to take with you, is that data को हम हमेशा, as we said earlier also, कि गब्बर सिंह सोचते हैं. But if we start looking at that data, that it improves our efficiency, it assists in making informed decisions, and it will increase our efficiency and productivity, I think our life will be much easier. So how will this data management system help me in improving the functioning of my school will depend on your belief, your value system. क्या आप डेटा मैनेजमेंट को ऐसे देखते हैं फर्स्ट पिक्चर, या आप डेटा मैनेजमेंट को ऐसे देखते हैं सेकंड पिक्चर? राइट. सो एवरीथिंग विल वर्क फ्रॉम देयर. अगर आप फर्स्ट पिक्चर देखते हैं तो यू विल मेक श्योर इट गेट्स इंट्रोड्यूस्ड इन अ फेज्ड मैनर. और अगर ऐसे देखते हैं तो वैसे ही मैं घबराऊंगी, आगे शुरू करूंगी नहीं. It looks to me like a lot of time consuming activity. And what are the different data? अभी तो I have listed only very few, but there are, I think, अगर एक list बनाएंगे तो you'll get more than 100 data that you have. Audit का data, assessment का data, children needing support data, interestingly workload of teachers data. So एक I wanted a little help from a school. I wanted the workload of teachers जो आप देते हो प्राइमरी मिडिल सीनियर स्कूल में. एंड मैंने 2-3 स्कूल से पूछा, एंड इट टुक देम एटलीस्ट 2 days टू गिव मी दिस डेटा, जस्ट द वर्कलोड. सो डेटा ऐसा होना चाहिए जो आपका 5 minutes के अंदर अंदर आपको मिल जाए. दैट्स वाई आई सेड गो बैक एंड ट्राई इट आउट इन योर स्कूल्स. आस्क फॉर सिंपल डेटा, नॉट फॉर अ वेरी कॉम्प्लिकेटेड वन. अब एक ERP डेटा कह रहा है कि हमारे स्कूल में 720 बच्चे हैं। अटेंडेंस से जब कैलकुलेट होता है तो हमारे स्कूल में 650 बच्चे हैं। वो गैप कहाँ से आया? कुछ बच्चे हैं जो टीसी के लिए अप्लाई किया है, लेकिन उसमें वो अभी बच्चों का नाम नहीं कटा हुआ, बट बच्चे नहीं आ रहे हैं। हाउ डू वी हैंडल दिस काइंड ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन? Is something that you'll have to see that your data is all correct at all ends. Physical verification may be, as well as digital verification may be. So one school wanted to cut down on their paper. They realized कि वो जो reams of sheets आती हैं, वो पूरे साल में they were spending more than 2-3 lakhs only on the reams. And then all the coordinators, teachers got together to do an analysis. वर्कशीट्स में कितना जाता है, प्रोजेक्ट्स में कितना जाता है, सर्कुलर्स में कितना जाता है, असेसमेंट्स एंड एग्जामिनेशंस में कितना जाता है, प्रोजेक्ट्स में कितना जाता है, पोर्टफोलियो में, एनेक्डोटल रिकॉर्ड्स में कहाँ जा रही हैं ये सारी शीट्स. And when they calculated and looked at the huge amount of sheets being produced, they found out ways to cut down on that. And eventually it came down to, I think, 1 lakh or something from 3 lakhs. So that is what your data tells you. How can we reduce that? I remember one parent telling one of the schools कि आपके बच्चे तो बढ़ेंगे नहीं क्योंकि स्कूल की कैपेसिटी इतनी है, लेकिन खर्चे बढ़ेंगे क्योंकि एस्केलेशन हो रहा है. So you will have to start looking at what are the ways that you have to cut down on your recurring expenditures. और वो कहाँ पे आता है? वाटर में आता है, इलेक्ट्रिसिटी में आता है, पेपर एंड स्टेशनरी में आता है, डीजल में आता है, एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा. So data definitely helps in improving efficiency. So I'm not going to go into this. I think now you're equipped enough, empowered enough to read the rubric, to find out which level you're in, to understand what each indicator means. अगर यहाँ लिखा है मीट ऑल स्टैट्यूटरी रिक्वायरमेंट्स, तो आपकी जो पूरी ट्रांसपोर्ट की, पानी की, फूड की, क्लेनलीनेस की, हाइजीन की, सेफ्टी की, फिजिकल सेफ्टी, सोशो इमोशनल सेफ्टी, आपकी जो स्टेट गवर्नमेंट की, सीबीएसई की, इट इन्वॉल्व्स ऑल स्टैट्यूटरी रिक्वायरमेंट्स. Right? So do interpret the indicator in its true spirit. अगर आप सिर्फ एक ये डॉक्यूमेंट डाल देते हो कि हाँ हमारे स्कूल का विजन तो है ना, तो एक विजन का एक डॉक्यूमेंट तो डल गया, लेकिन वो विजन कहाँ कहाँ दिख रहा है? क्या आपके डायरी में दिख रहा है? क्या आपके कैलेंडर में दिख रहा है? क्या आपकी चेकलिस्ट में दिख रहा है? क्या दिस इज एन ऑडिटिंग चेकलिस्ट बाय द कोऑर्डिनेटर? क्या आपकी मीटिंग्स के एजेंडाज में दिख रहा है? व्हाट आर द डॉक्यूमेंट्स? क्या आपकी वो प्रैक्टिसेस रिफ्लेक्ट करते हैं? सो डोंट जस्ट कलेक्ट डॉक्यूमेंट्स फॉर द सेक ऑफ कलेक्टिंग. जो आपकी सजेस्टेड लिस्ट ऑफ डॉक्यूमेंट्स है, सम विल हेल्प यू टू बी एट लेवल 1, but I'm sure you have more documents to show that you are following the PDCA. So do read each indicator thoroughly, and a quick refresh of your management and governance domain, of how interconnected it is with all the domains. Whether it is safety, security, infrastructure, inclusive practices, human resources, curriculum, pedagogy, assessment, etc., etc. If you are not just a manager, but a stakeholder centric leader, you would probably be able to connect the dots together and not look at everything in isolation. And why are we doing all this? हम ये क्यों कर रहे हैं? Learning spaces, infrastructure, inclusivity, pedagogical practices, assessments, diesel कितना खर्च हुआ, कितना efficiency lose हुई, a smoother functioning in the school. जो हम पैसे बचा रहे हैं, that can go in our student enrichment activities, that can go in developing our teachers. हम budget में कह सकते हैं, we've cut down here, we need a budget for my teachers capacity building. We need a budget for student enrichment activities. We need a budget for having a special educator in the school. All right, because all that is the need of the hour. So let's review our practices. Are we making optimal use? Because eventually all that impact will be seen in your learners. And all these programs that we have of conservation, electricity, paper, etc., if children are involved in it as an entrepreneurial project, nothing like it. And you already have a sample of the improvement plan template. You can make your own also, not a problem, whichever way, as long as there is a timeline to it and who's responsible for it. And when do you plan to overcome it? So, friends, one last question for all of you. A quick last question. I am going to show you 4 pictures. So have a quick look at the pictures. You could associate with any one of them. I remember the first time we started doing data management, we were at level 1. Oh my God, how are we going to do it? Right? So whichever level you're in, this level is not your SQAA level, the framework level, but just for your own understanding that your school currently, is it bogged down? Are you looking at 10, 15, 20 different people to support you? So there is a consultant over a consultant, or you are collaborating with each other, synergizing with each other, parents, teachers, students, community, and seeing where you are by through the 4 hours. So picture 1, picture 2, picture 3, or are you ready for your own Chandrayaan? Sensing, making sense of what's going on, aligning it with the national goals, preparing for it, learning, growing. Same as your picture 3 maybe, but that's the process. But are you fired up? Are you challenged? Are you inspired and motivated to, okay, let me try and do something and make a difference? So, as I said, practices will keep on happening, will keep improving, will keep falling, will keep getting up, making small little mistakes here and there. But yes, together we can. And any help
Now,
that
number of trees coming up as answers. They're seeing themselves as number 3. Hello. Yeah, together we can. Yes.
lovely. You all are the fortunate ones. When we started our career, we were at 1. So you are the fortunate
There are a
ones.
couple of number 4s also, but large number of 3s saying learn and grow.
And I think Mr. Karpagam says nobody can ignite you. You have to ignite your own inside and in your own mind. And Abdul
Absolutely.
Kalam Azadji was the one that used to say, igniting the minds. Yeah,
Correct.
lovely. So great friends, I thank you so much for all the responses. And CBSE is with you. We'll try and support you and help you. But as I said, CBSE is one unit, one team. It's, I think, all of us who will have to get together and as human resources, get together, build up a team, build up a pool, take it forward, encourage schools, help the schools, but wear our own masks first, equip ourselves before we take it out to the rest of the world without making it a kind of a threatening inspector mode, but more looking at where can we improve and grow further, whichever level we are on. Right? So thank you, friends. The spirit of SQAA, as usual, encouraging reflection. You've done a lot of reflection today. Thank you. Sorry I had to make you work a lot at the end of the day. Be accountable for what we are doing. Eventually, the responsibility and accountability is the school leaders. Collaboration and innovate. Keep innovating small little things and building up our own Chandrayaan to make a difference in the field of education. So we'll stop here. If you have any queries, please mail instead of phone call You can write in your queries at squaw@cbseshiksha.in. CBSE will definitely try to answer your queries. But please make them very specific. And we also spoke about feedbacks and feed forwards being specific and measurable. So the feedback and feed forward that you give for this session, right? So we would love to hear in terms of specifically which segment did you like, or which slide did you like, or which concept you didn't like, what could have gone better, right? Yes, interaction. I mean, YouTubes are always a kind of a one-way thing. But yes, feel free to give your feedbacks and feed forwards so that we can make improvements in the next sessions. Your feedback and feed forward on making the slides less text heavy helped us to look for more cartoon pictures for you. So that's why that specific feedback is important. Thank you so much. And any quick questions, if there are any? Although Manju ma'am, Deepa ma'am have been very active behind the scenes to keep sharing the quick questions that have been coming up. Yeah. Wow, that was fast.
I think Manju ma'am is on mute.
Manju ma'am, you're on mute. I saw one very specific one, Manju ma'am, where it says, love the cartoon of the heart and the brain, holding hands. And another specific one is on that it was a reflective session. Yeah, Manju
It
ma'am.
was. Yes, ma'am. There's a lot of feedback on it being a responsive session. If you go through the,
Can you enlarge it?
I can. Uh, 1 second. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fine.
So
Perfect.
I've gone with the responses of every question. Lots and lots of responses. It was kind of difficult tagging them all. But then one of them on question number 1 was a word that you use, man, material, money. Usage of that is management and governance. So that came in there. Question number 2, internal and external um, people in management and governance, and how they're involved stakeholders. Sorry,
No
community.
worries. Okay. No
Yeah.
worries.
And then your question number 3 on strengths and areas of improvement came up very, very well. More strengths could be seen, which meant that the team was reflecting about areas of improvement. And so that came up, the answers came in a little later. And then there were keywords on your vision statement question that came, which was not actually planned, but wonderful words that school leaders have used in their vision statements. 1 second. Yes. So lots and lots of words there, and for some reason it's jumping, so I'll go slower.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely.
Reverence for learning.
Amount of richness in the vision statements.
Yes. Very, very rich. Develop a peaceful society. Learning to serve. Amalgamation of values, technology, development.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing all this. It's a great learning for all of us. Thank you.
And then your question on traits that you see with someone ably put as know your children.
Yeah.
So a lot of beautiful, the way they see their children.
Lovely.
And then the question, sorry?
Sometimes overconfident. So
Yes.
some of the I think you will notice that the traits are age relevant. So
Yes.
when we say why is a child like this, and you relate it to the developmental milestones.
True. Very true. And then the question on the um, on TLC and the way it had improved the, the structure. So everybody came up saying, being open with parents is very, very important. And there was micro thinking that you had pointed out, assessment for learning. So the improvement plan had all these. There was gap analysis. There was a collaborative approach. There was review and response. There was feedback. There was reflection. A lot of extra coaching. Uh, Participation of stakeholders made it very comprehensive, and the school was socially and emotionally engaged with the school. There was gap analysis, feed forward from stakeholders, and there was a school inclusion by complete participation of everyone. Similarly, in the activity on transport, they saw police verification as an improvement. They saw parents and teachers as stakeholders, equal stakeholders, updation of documents, say, training on safety, CCTV cameras, responsibility, making a bus driver or an attender being made responsible for their work, and therefore instilling in them a sense of ownership and belongingness. And the final question, the power within, most of them were at, gave themselves a 3, but then they also, some of them saw themselves taking off. Words of appreciation. These are the words of appreciation. Feed forward. Someone said a SWOT analysis is very important. But I think, and on overall, these are some of the statements that came in as the session was ending. I like the thing of all beneficiaries are happy means happy school, making everybody accountable. Input of data that is authentic will also produce output results. And then, like you said, if leadership has belief and conviction, then things will be different. And similarly, such a leader will then, invoke the faith of parents and students and all stakeholders. So, ma'am, these were some of the responses. Deepa, ma'am, if you would like to share some.
So there are no questions as such. I think just the observations. I don't think there are any questions.
Yes, Deepa, ma'am, any questions? Because I couldn't see any questions.
No questions, Manju. What you've shared is the similar that ones that I have also noted. So, been a wonderful session. That's what we've heard.
Mhm. Fine. So if there's any questions pending, because Dipanshu is giving us a signal there, he switched on his video to tell us it's time to wrap up.
No worries, ma'am. Question answer can be taken.
But if there are still any thoughts, any queries, etc., you can mail them to the CBSE mail ID that was shared with you. Right? So thank
Yes.
you so much, and let's launch our own Chandrayans in our own regions, wherever we are, and change the landscape of education. Thank you so much. God bless you. And thank you so much, Hilal sir, if he is there, and Manju ma'am, Deepa ma'am, Shanti ma'am, and Rita ma'am, who all been continuous support throughout all these webinars, and to CBSE, the evergreen Dipanshu. Yeah. And Samiksha behind the scenes who doesn't show her face to us. Okay. So thank you everyone, and God bless to all the participants, and wish you the very best.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Kalpana ma'am.
Thank you.
As we come to the close of this insightful and engaging webinar on management and governance, it's my honor to extend a heartfelt vote of thanks on behalf of CBSE. First and foremost, our deepest gratitude goes to our esteemed guest speaker, Mr. Hilal, Joint Secretary CBSE, for sharing his profound insights and expertise with us. I would also like to express our sincere appreciation to our wonderful team of resource persons, Deepa ma'am, Shanti ma'am, Manju ma'am, Rita ma'am, and especially Kalpana ma'am, the key speaker of the day, for your invaluable contribution in shaping today's discussion. Your guidance and expertise have enriched our understanding and provided us with a broader perspective on this domain. We must also acknowledge the tireless efforts of our technical team led by Dheeraj sir, who have worked diligently behind the scenes to ensure a smooth and seamless webinar experience for all the participants. Last but not the least, a big thank you to each and every one of you for being a part of this enriching journey. Your presence here today demonstrates your dedication to learning and your commitment to personal and professional growth. Now, on 23rd August, we will have another webinar on another SQAAF domain, that is leadership. So we will meet again virtually on 23rd August, and thank you all.
Thank you, Dipanshu. Thank you to everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kalpana ma'am, for a wonderful session. We always learn so much from you every time. Thank you.
You're being modest. Thank you, Manju ma'am, Deepa ma'am. Yeah.